yeah, that's good. You know, one of the things we talk about is the emotional part of purchasing and the emotional part of marketing. And I want to talk a little bit about, as you know, the limbic system part of the brain is the brain that's involved in our behavior and emotional responses. When it comes to behaviors, we need to understand that that emotional part is very strong. So today, I kind of want to talk about Coke, and some of you may remember this, and some of you may have just read about it, but I remember very well when New Coke came out, and the idea behind New Coke is that they hadn't changed the formula in 99 years. They were going to change the formula to something better to make it more modern. And they did it as a taste test, and they had it out there where people would taste it compared to old Coke to new Coke, right? To classic Coke to new Coke. And they started in just a few markets to start with. And they had over 200,000 people that went on record and said that they like the taste better than original Coke. And so because of that, 200,000 people, that's a lot of people. So Coke made the move. They went out, they switched, they crossed the line. Here is new Coke. Now 200,000 people is a lot of people. But see if you can imagine this figure. 8,000 a day or more angry, upset phone calls came in about the Coca-Cola change. And they were like, okay, now wait a minute, how did we miss this? Because we had over 200,000 people, but the fact that they didn't take into consideration is the emotional tie to original Coke, to what it meant through their life, what it meant through the past, what it meant to other people. And it was so strong that it overpowered these 200,000 people that actually said the flavor they thought was a little bit better. And so Coca-Cola was stuck with, okay, what do we do now? In July of 1985, they figured that the best we can do is we need to have original Coke back. And so everything they'd done to get rid of it, they had to overnight try to get it back because of the response. So they put that the new Coke was out only 79 days before it was pulled and replaced back with original Coke. The neat thing that's come out of that, now at the time it was a huge mistake and a huge, you imagine the millions and millions of dollars of switching that out, switching the label, switching everything that went through there, and what that cost the company. The benefit that they got later on that was unplanned and could have backfired real easy was the loyalty that came back, that people felt like they made their voice heard and Coke listened, and Coke changed and went back and brought their Coke back, and so their loyalty to the Coke actually grew to the brand, to anything that had to do with Coca-Cola, and expanded. And so that was a great story and a great idea to look at in your marketing. Sometimes we put out research, we ask questions, we ask people what they think or what they consider, yet we don't understand if we've asked the right questions and in the right manner. And sometimes we make moves without understanding what the emotional effect of that move is. And so I would just encourage you to come back and say, okay, what is the emotion that I am putting in or helping to build behind my brand? And is it being felt and is it being experienced by the clients? And if not, you've got some changes to do. What can I do to grow that emotional connection? What can I do to make that more a part of what we're doing? And, you know, I think about earlier in my career, I was the manager of grocery stores. And I think about, I am a huge Coke fan. And for a while, in my head, I didn't really realize where it started, but I had become that guy who, when restaurants ask, is Pepsi okay? I make some smart remark, well, is monopoly money okay to pay then if you're going to give me this fake stuff? And I would tease back and forth. But as I look back through my life, I realized how Coke was cemented in my life. And because of my job, it was different than some people. Because I ran a store and was in charge of what was going on in the store, I dealt with Coke and Pepsi and others, bottlers, on a store level. And as I looked at that, how I became more of a Coca-Cola fan is in the area that I was in, Coca-Cola did a much better job of servicing that store than Pepsi did. Coca-Cola's kept their area clean. They were on time. When their deliveries, they would make sure their displays were right and correctly put together. They were ahead in their planning so I could plan promotions. And Pepsi kept falling short in all those areas. And so to do my job better and to make my job easier, Coke was a much better partner than Pepsi was. Now, because of that, I gave them more space, more promotions, more, the key holidays to promote their ad. And because of that, they would also reward me with, hey, now and then they'd throw me a Coca-Cola t-shirt, or I'd go to a sports event with them and sit down, on the front row, or things like that. And so my love of Coke kept growing. Now, again, it was because they were doing a better job over here, but they did enforce it in me. Anyway, regardless of how you feel about Coke or Pepsi, come back and look at your own brand. Come back and look at your own company and say, is there a feeling, is there emotion that I'm creating when people deal with me or my people or my brand? And what can I do to enhance that or to make sure that that's going on the positive direction that I want it to go? And how can I make that better? The emotional connection behind our brand is so key today. So many times people are making their decisions on what to brand by what that company supports, what that company stands for, what the reputation of that company is. So take a look at what you're doing and adjust whatever you're doing so that you're producing the most positive and resonating the most with your customers in the direction that they see that brand going. Okay, this is just one more key to add to the emotional side of your marketing. And again, this is our marketing and this is our point of view.